Hey world, welcome back to Nerdy Keith and welcome to a brand new episode of my series Perspective A series in which I document my experiences as an autistic person and how I navigate through some of the obstacles that I have as an autistic person. So in this episode, I want to talk about social anxiety. So what exactly is social anxiety? Well, the HSE, Ireland's health service body, defines social anxiety as an overwhelming fear of social situations. It can be long-lasting. It usually starts in our teenage years. For some, it gets better as we get older. However, for many, it does not go away on its own. It can be very distressing and it can have a big impact on your life. Social anxiety is a funny one for me because I've had a lot of practice with public speaking, interacting with the public, mainly in very controlled environments. I've worked in a variety of different customer service roles over a great many years, but a lot of that has got to do with being aware of what is expected of you within your job role and constant repetition of all of the things you're supposed to say and all of the ways that you are supposed to act in order to give that impression of good, attentive customer care. In a way, customer care is kind of working off a script. Over the years. You kind of accumulate a variety of different phrases that you will say in many given circumstances. So after that constant years of repetition, you pretty much become prepared for anything. So it's due to that structure and that controlled environment. Because of that, I'm able to navigate a certain level of comfort and not have to deal with social anxiety in those particular circumstances. In addition to that, I've also studied acting in my younger years back in college, and that required me to stand up on a stage in front of large audiences and recite lines from a script. But then again, in that circumstances, these are words and phrases that have been pre-written and practiced by me over and over and over again, so that it almost becomes second nature. So I had absolutely no difficulty doing this. As a matter of fact, I quite enjoyed it. I found it quite thrilling. The idea of becoming another character. It was quite a fascinating experience for me at that time. And the reason why I bring up these examples is it seems to me that a lot of neurotypicals who are perhaps less aware of a lot of the difficulties and obstacles that autistic people have to navigate through do find it puzzling when an autistic person says they do have at least some degree of social anxiety or social awkwardness. Especially when said autistic people have been in a lot of situations that involved a lot of public speaking, be it a customer service role or performance. And they find it puzzling that we are able to perform these tasks quite well and truly embrace the true spirit of what is required of these tasks without any difficulty, or at least very little difficulty or notable difficulty. And they find it confusing, and they might say things like, oh, but I've seen you interacting with people and you work in that shop and you're talking to customers and you seem fine. I can't understand why you would say that you have social anxiety or you feel socially awkward, because to me you seem fine. The thing is, for a lot of us, we tend to feel the social awkwardness and social anxiety a lot less in those controlled environments and in those controlled scenarios where we know what to say, we know how to act in those particular circumstances. And the other thing is, social anxiety and social awkwardness, it's not constant. A lot of autistic people will attest to this, that it's not a constant thing. Sometimes it happens when we least expect it. In terms of myself though, when I have no script or no set of guidelines to follow and I'm in a social circumstance, it can be difficult or challenging sometimes for me to know what are the right things to say and do in certain social situations, particularly when it comes to unfamiliar social situations. I think a lot of it has to do with being so in my head, constantly thinking of how I come across, constantly thinking how others are thinking about me, how I come across to them, and all this type of thing. And as much as we all try to not concentrate or dwell so much on what others may be thinking of you, and you try not to let it affect you on what the opinion of someone else is, you do try to do that, but that's, quite honestly, it's a lot easier said than done. It's very hard to do that all of the time. It's even very hard to do that a lot of the time for a lot of people with ASD. By nature, I am very introverted. I'm not the sort of person who will feel comfortable having a spontaneous conversation with a complete stranger. However, at the same time, if a complete stranger initiates a conversation with me, then I am yet comfortable enough to have that exchange and to keep that momentum of conversation going to the best of my abilities. Although granted, there have been times where even then I start to feel a little bit socially awkward, not knowing what to say, not knowing how to read the person to see what sort of interests they may have, and it can turn into that weird awkward silence thing, which is very uncomfortable. Granted, my level of social anxiety or social awkwardness that I experience and feel is by no means crippling. It is very mild in comparison to so many others with ASD who experience social anxiety so intense that it's honestly upsetting and uncomfortable. I've heard from others with ASD that their level of social anxiety is so intense that they can hardly leave their homes, and having conversations with their own friends can be even stressful for them to deal with when they're experiencing such levels of social anxiety. Many autistic individuals who experience social anxiety may tell you that the way they try to deal with this or overcome this to at least some level or some degree is we quite simply try to process what we are feeling, process what we are experiencing. We can simply stop and ask ourselves, okay, so why do I feel this way? What exactly am I so concerned about? Why does the opinion of person X or Y matter so much to me? And sometimes I think we just need to take ourselves away from these stressful situations, away from the environment of these stressful situations, even if it's just for a brief moment of time, to ask ourselves these questions, to sort of self-counsel ourselves, to check in with ourselves. But in saying all of this, this is not something I experience all of the time. But every once in a while, I may find myself in that very unfamiliar social environment or unaccustomed social environment. And I may find myself feeling very uncomfortable, very self-conscious, very in my head about the situation that I find myself in. I guess it's all about finding that one hack, if you will, of trying to navigate through these difficulties as autistic people. So if you're autistic, do you experience social anxiety? And if so, do you have any techniques or internal monologues, I suppose you could call it, that you have found helpful to help you navigate through this? Let me know in the comments. And if you have any helpful advice for anyone else in the comments, I encourage you to share it so we can help each other as a community. So that's pretty much it for this week, everyone. But it was a topic that was playing on my mind for a while and just wanted to get some of my thoughts out there regarding this. And until next time, everyone, bye world. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Feel free to check out some of my other videos on this channel and my secondary channel, Keats Universe. And also feel free to follow me on social media such as Bluesky and Mastodon.